Wait, I
Welcome
don't see.
to episode 7 of I'm Open.
I'm open.
I'm
I'm
open.
open.
There we go. We're gonna do tier talk today, but we're still waiting on Andrew. He's taking his morning dump, so we are gonna dump some exciting merch reveals because I believe each of us has bought some team merch.
Yeah. Should we
Um,
wait for Alu to do that though, so we can all
No,
dump together?
he's late. If you're late, you're late.
You're late. You're late.
It's merch dump time.
Yeah, who wants to dump their merch first?
I want to dump my merch first.
Dump it all over us.
So I know that my fandom has been heretofore with a secret, and it has not been clear which team I favor. And so, you know, with a lot of honor and a lot of pride, I'd like to formally announce my my fandom and my merch dump
Oh,
for the
That is
DC
nice.
Breeze.
That is
beautiful.
a sick hat.
Thank you very much. It also has buttons.
Oh no, it doesn't. Oh, it goes up. It goes up.
Holy shit. You look like you're ready to go fishing.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I was hoping it would give off. So go DC Breeze. If ever, anybody on the Breeze wants to go fly fishing, you know who to call right here.
Gotcha. I guess I'll go next, and I'll get my dump ready. I've been very secretive about which team I'm favored. On Twitter, you can't really tell. All right, that's a whole lot. I've been pretty open and obvious about it, but I'm very
He's
honored to
open.
say, let's go Summit. Let's go
Nice.
S tier Summit, baby. Let's go. Yeah,
Good
and
beat.
same with Joe. Like, if anybody on the Summit wants to hang out, get some ice cream, I know some places. So,
Beautiful.
Nope. All right. Well,
Beautiful sweatshirt.
mine's been equally a secret since I don't really hype up anyone in particular on Twitter. But if you can see, I'm already wearing mine actually.
Oh.
I'm wearing a nice LA Aviators 5-panel hat.
The whole time.
It's actually my first 5-panel
man.
hat, so I'm officially a Frisbee player, even though I've played for like 10 years or whatever.
It suits you well.
Thank you. So, yeah.
What's so special
now
about the Aviators, Sam?
I'm excited to start hyping up some of their young talent. They have. There's just so many, but if I had to pick one, there's Everest Shapiro, who's just a Rookie of the Year favorite.
Yeah,
He's my Rookie of the Year favorite. He
Um,
had a great game. I'm sure we'll talk about it more later, but what a game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, leading the game plus minus. I mean, what's there to talk about? Just absolute stud.
2 weeks in a row. Good for him.
Yeah, he's really killing it on plus minus.
All right. Well, Alu's still not here, so we need to stall some more, I guess. So let's look at the scores from this past week. Did anyone have a favorite game they watched or anything like that?
I really thought the Aviators game was great. I think we need to talk about the milking the clock management by the Growlers. It was very impressive. Can we see who had more breaks in this game?
It was even 2-2.
It was even. Okay. All right. Yeah, it seemed like at every quarter the Growlers really just they knew how to hold for the last goal. I mean, the fourth quarter they were tied and they scored with 0 time left, which was very impressive.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that they held it for too long and weren't going to get a good shot out there. There was like 6 seconds left, and instead of going for the end zone, they looked for one more round, and it ended up working. But that last throw was a little scary, I think, if you're the Growlers. But I mean, obviously it worked out, so I don't think anybody's going to complain.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree, Ryan. That was a great game. The D-line conversion was pretty rough from the Growlers, but I mean, early they were throwing a bunch of hucks when they got turns, and then Everest would eat those up, and then they started to sort of work it up, and they had better success after that.
Yeah.
All right, finally, we have our fourth host.
Welcome.
Oh, in the flesh.
Welcome back.
Howdy.
We,
What's going on, y'all?
We did our
We
merch
just did
drop.
yep.
Oh shit. So yeah, I didn't really get anything, but I do actually have one. I have something to bring to show and tell. One sec.
All right.
Nice.
That was enigmatic. I like it. I'm so excited.
While he's getting his thing, I will say that the Spiders Cascade game was probably my favorite to watch.
All right. I thought I brought it, but I don't have it. I have a Aviators practice jersey from none other than our very
Ooh.
own.
Ooh.
It looks like a bad high school jersey. But anyway.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Still
Tim,
have
I-
Aviators practice sweat on it.
It's actually from like the tryout. And it
Mhm.
just says like Aviators and just has like a generic like dude like laying out for a disc.
It only has Aviators tryout sweat.
Yeah, it's like all gross and crusty.
Nice.
Yeah, Everest gave it to
Sam,
me.
I agree about the Spiders game. I was watching that game very intently in the parking lot of a Walmart, and it was cool to see the Spiders come through.
Yeah, that was sick. They just
Yeah.
like the Growlers, they scored, or no, the Cascade scored at the buzzer to send it to overtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then the Spiders had to break to win, I think.
And they did it.
Yeah. Are we formally getting started?
Yeah.
Oh, we've been
rolling.
started.
We're rolling.
Fuck. Okay.
Are you
okay,
open?
what-
Are you open?
I'm so open.
All right. So again, I want to open up by debating if we should create a new tier, because we did just talk about that Spiders game. So I guess we'll go with them first. They're no longer over, so they probably have a right to escape this F tier. But are they good enough to be among the likes of the Nitro and the Glory and all that?
I mean, how many wins do the Nitro have at this point?
It's fair. Let's see.
I mean, not to be mean,
Nitro
but
are
like
2
Is
and
it
5.
2? Is it 2?
Yeah.
they
Nitro
got
2
two
and 5.
wins.
So the Glory have the most in that tier with 3 and 5.
Okay. Didn't the Glory
Um,
they got a win? They just beat Ottawa this
The
weekend.
Glory, I don't think they looked that great against Ottawa, though.
Yeah, they beat
Yeah.
Ottawa by 1. They beat Philadelphia by 1,
Yeah.
and they beat the Rush by 10. So the Rush are so weird.
Oh my, the Rush just played again. They just had a doubleheader against Phoenix and my good old DC Breeze here. And against Phoenix, they were 1 for 16 on break, which is 6%. And then against DC, they were, I think, 2 for 16, which is 11%. So 3 breaks over the whole weekend is not good. 2 for 18 against the Breeze, 11%.
Dang. That's pretty bad.
That's
So-
pretty terrible.
Yeah. So is
Yeah.
there, in your mind, is there a distinction between a team like that and a team like the Glory or Nitro?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
I think we have a higher view on like I mean, I guess they're better teams. I mean, the Nitro lost to the Summit by 1 point. I mean, it was a rainy game and there were drops on both sides, but
Yeah.
the Nitro, like not too long ago, were much higher in my mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's time for a D tier. Maybe it's time for a D tier.
Yeah, personally, I just feel like the Nitro and the Glory, if they were to play a B tier team, I would be like, okay, I think these B tier teams would probably win, but if the Glory pulls it out and the Nitro pulls it out, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But at this point now, like any of those B tier teams against the Cascades now or the Rush, like I would expect them to pull that win out.
Yeah.
So are we
think I'm
are we
with you.
thinking of making a D tier, pulling the spiders into them, and then maybe like pulling the Rush down to that D tier?
Yeah, arguably the Rush, maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Ottawa, maybe Seattle, kind of. And then maybe we can be a little more, selective about our B and A's if we have like a D and then a C that's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
I think I'm just gonna vote towards keeping the amount of tiers we have. It kind of allows for more cutthroat, like your C tier, your B tier, your F tier. If we have a D tier, it almost like takes away the meaning of the tiers because there's so many of them. Like what at this point, it's like, what's the difference between A, B, C, D? Because we have 4 tiers between you're making the playoffs versus you're bad. So like that, I'm not saying we should keep, but that's what I think. I think the more tiers, the less descriptive really the tiers mean.
Yeah, I think the cutthroatness is really important on the top of the list. And then I think in the bottom of the list, it would really, I mean, I really do think that there's a difference between like, the maybe Boston and like, Ottawa. Like, well, actually, I don't even know. But those teams at the bottom, it does kind of get like, okay, maybe I think this team's better, but I don't really know how much better. Like, maybe you have a point, Ryan, but I do think it would give us a little more leeway, but at the same time, I don't really know either. Like it just
Maybe
gets
we
such a
should-
jumbled,
Maybe we should just be more ruthless with our F tier, not keep it as only teams with 0 losses or 0 wins. Sorry.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
I guess
Joe.
so, because there needs to be a solution where, because I think adding a D tier is more about the F tier because, like, right now it's all winless teams and no one's going to drop into that. So either the F tier has to be like, we'll put you in there, or we need another step.
I think
What
we
about
put you in
this?
there.
What about this? In spirit of Ryan's cutthroat attitude, we just make a mechanics tier. And then the F tier is kind of the D tier, and the mechanics are in the mechanics tier. And then if you get to mechanics level, you go there. Just as we we were thinking about maybe talking about some teams going into Empire tier. Like Empire tier doesn't necessarily only mean it's for Empire. Same would go for mechanics tier. We could add a mechanics tier, put them there, and then we kind of space out our tiers a little bit. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm we're gonna get so much.
We're gonna get so much hate. We have
yeah.
mechanics fans. Like
our
we have
mechanics
people
fans are so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I know. I feel bad too, but
so much. But we have like 4 followers on our pod, and I know one of them is a mechanics player.
Okay, a more crowd pleaser version of the same move is we could just do F and F plus, because I think that's maybe a little more fair for what the spiders are. We can just give the spiders F plus, and then we have a true F.
Basically, at that point.
If we're gonna be ruthless,
but it's meaner.
If we're gonna be ruthless, the spiders are still in the F tier. They had a good weekend, but they're not a good team.
Yeah, I agree with Joe there.
I would love to like give them a little present for having a great weekend. And it's not like they looked like a horrible team out there. They looked like a real team, but they're still in the F tier. I mean,
yeah, to go along John's point, like they beat the Cascades, who are a C tier team, who used to be an F tier team, by 1 on a last second play. It's not like they're like, oh, like they, like if we were talking about like the Aviators beating like the Growlers by 1, I mean, this pod probably would have been S tier by that result, but it's nothing to be super proud of. I think it was just like they finally got a win.
They deserve like a little bit of, like, they shouldn't be just still stuck with all the winless teams. Like, they won a game.
That's why okay, let me hear it.
Joe, you can go ahead if you have a better idea. But what if we did this? Take the little spider icon, move it one to the left, and have it be at the top. I don't know. if we have issues with making tiers and we're not really sure, we at least can acknowledge that they're better than the other F tier teams. They have a win. I'm happy with that. I don't know. What were you gonna go with, Joe? Were you gonna
That was part one of my 2-part solution. And the second part would be move another team down so it's not only winless teams down there.
I like that.
That way also keep the spiders up there. They can be first in the F tier, but now the F tier are just teams that we don't think would win. I mean, I don't think these teams would win a game against the B tier. That's 2 tiers up from them. I would expect them to lose. So I don't know. I think F tier can be just the worst, the bottom tier. I don't think it has to be winless.
Okay.
Which team will we move down? I'm eyeing each team. I'm like, okay, Boston, I don't know if they deserve to go down. Seattle did just lose. Maybe they go back down.
There's 2 teams that we could talk about, and it's the Rush and Ottawa.
The rest
Yeah,
so the
Seattle
Rush,
too.
we were so I don't want to be too reactionary on the Rush because we were like kind of high on them because they had some flashy offensive stats. And then just not too long ago, we were talking about them like C, B, like I don't know. We were thinking of moving them up. I don't want to like just drop.
Oh,
them to
Ottawa
F
just had that
weekend.
impressive game against
New York.
Empire.
Yeah,
They took half. I don't know.
So-
That would be rude to move them down.
I think I agree with that. But what about the Cascades? They are 2
I don't
and
wanna move
7.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So would Rush.
Yeah, maybe Rush too. The Rush did not look very good this week. I watched their game against Phoenix, and they just had so many mistakes. It was tough. It was a different team. I don't know.
All right. Do we need to be? If we need to be ruthless, then let's
do it.
just.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
Let's just do it.
Play yourselves out of it.
Although looking at this chunky F tier, I do kind of want a Mechanics tier, but whatever.
I think we could. Let's leave Cascade. I don't know. How can we move the Rush and
we're being cutthroat. If we're not adding a D tier, we're being cutthroat.
Okay, I like that. Let's do it.
It's too chunky. We could move the spiders up just as a little, happy for you, but you're probably coming down next week.
Yeah, we could. Nah.
They're not good
Cutthroat.
enough.
We're a cutthroat pod.
Cutthroat. If this is the cutthroat. Yeah, you're right. We're cutthroat.
We're cutthroat.
We're cutthroat.
We're cutthroat.
Okay, so we're happy with all these F. I mean, not happy, but we are.
I take no joy in this.
In agreement of all these F tier teams. The Mechanics lost again. They looked like they might have a chance, and then they didn't at all.
So sad.
Yeah, let's just leave them in F to die, and then we'll get moving on C. So Pittsburgh beat the Mechanics by 3. That's a C tier move. It was sort of a game, and then it wasn't really towards the end of the first half. But like, I'm not impressed by that.
No.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at all the games, and they kind of all played out exactly how I'd expect them to play out, except for like the final score played out. I think the Ottawa Empire game, we were all like kind of surprised Ottawa took half, but I mean, their luck kind of ran out when Empire just went up 6 breaks.
Yeah, I think they saved themselves from F with that performance, but they're still 1 or 6, so they're knocking on the door.
Their effort was not in vain. You're still in the C tier, Ottawa. That's probably what they were thinking when they were playing.
Yeah.
Also, shout out John Randolph. I think he was tied with Ben Yacht for most goals in that game, but played. Randolph only played 17 points, 16 of which were defensive, and Yacht played 25 points. So a solid game for Randolph.
Okay, JR.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. You heard it here first. John Randolph is good at Frisbee. The Nitro did not play, so they're still there. The Glory beat Ottawa by 1.
Or
Neither team looked too good in that game.
yeah.
That's 2 C-tier teams playing each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've
good.
talked enough about bad teams. Let's move on to the Alley Cats.
The Alley Cats did not lose this weekend, so I
they went undefeated this weekend.
Yeah.
Good on them. Did Montreal play?
I thought
No.
they didn't play.
They did not play.
Okay.
That's a bummer because I kind of wanted to move them down.
Yeah. Did they lose to someone last week?
Probably. Let's see. The Aviators played a close game with an A team.
A-tier. Yeah. They looked solid, the Aviators. I mean, the game was back and forth the whole time. Nobody was really up by more than a score or two for the entire game, but also a lot of turnovers and break chances that went unsuccessful. It was just turnover, and then the D line would turn it over, and then the O line would turn it over, and then there'd be another break chance that would be unsuccessful.
Yeah.
And then they'd throw it to Everest Shapiro, who would score in the end zone.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I noticed in this game, which I think I think it's clear, like both watching the game and the final result, like that was an A-tier team beating a B-tier team. I think we can probably all agree on that. And I think a big difference also, in addition to the turnovers and missed break chances, was clock management in that game. The Growlers just showed a better understanding of the game situation, and they were able to like extend an offensive point at the end of the quarter so the Aviators wouldn't have a chance to answer. And at the very end of the game, the Aviators had the disc with the chance to tie it in like, I don't know, a minute and a half or something left. And they just scored way too quickly. And they gave the Growlers like 45 seconds left.
Yeah.
And it was just plenty of time for them to score. They should have milked the clock more at the end. You know, they just the whole game, they kind of didn't really have control of the clock. And I think that was really the difference between the Growlers and the Aviators in that game. So sad, as much as I hate to say it, like, you know, if the Aviators came out with a win, I think we could maybe talk about them A-tier, but you know, I think that's an A-tier team beating a B-tier team. And it was a tough loss. It was a really fun game to watch. But yeah, I think both those teams are I'm comfortable with where they're at right now. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
I think you said that really well.
Yeah.
Word.
Okay. Yeah. And no, I'm fine with them above Montreal and in D2. I don't feel a need to shift things around there.
Yeah, Montreal looks a little out of place there, but
I know, but they didn't do anything this week, so I can't mess with them.
Yeah.
And then the Phoenix beat the Rush, who we just added to F tier, but the Phoenix have quietly won 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
They're never gonna crack, you know, these top 2, but they might run away with this 3rd playoff spot, which would be pretty cool.
That would be cool. It would be cool to see. The Rush looks bad against them. Yeah, I don't know. Shout out James Pollard, had a really good game. I think he hauled in like 4 goals and like over 400 receiving yards. He looked really good. Just, you know, eye test. He was in the end zone. But I don't know. The Rush just looked like they were making some pretty, like they looked really frustrated with themselves during the game. Like they weren't playing as well as they probably expected, and as we've seen them play in the season. And I don't know, it was a little sloppy. So I don't want to, you know, credit to Philly for, you know, winning the game, obviously, but they're playing against a Rush team that was kind of fighting themselves, I think. So, you know, I want to keep Philly B tier for now. But
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, all right. And then we have the Rascals, who lost a 1-point game to the Soul. And I think the Rascals are are like deservedly on this AB kind of cutoff. Like with a good week, I think we move them up, but yeah, it's hard to peg them exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good team, and I think that they compete against A-tier teams, but I just feel like they don't have enough that I think that they're going to consistently beat A and B tier teams. I think that they're good enough that anytime you play them, you're ready for a good game. But in the end, I think if you're an A tier team, you expect to win that game. And I think that's kind of the difference between the A and the B tier, and they're right at the top.
Yeah. Are they a playoff team, do we think? I'm looking
think
at
so.
I'm looking at the teams ahead of them. It looks like they'll get that third spot, right?
Yeah,
Who do
they're
you think they're gonna
Features-
take it
Oh,
from?
Alley Cats.
they're just gonna beat the
Yeah.
Alley Cats and
Mhm.
take it. And
Sam.
then
Most
Shut your mouth.
I hate to say it, but
I don't know,
the
I
Alley
think the
Cats have a lot of
Mechanics-
tough games left. So
I think the
gotta-
Mechanics are gonna make a long late
Oh,
break
yeah.
for it.
Rascals wind chill.
Mechanics, yeah.
Rascals wind chill rematches this week in Minnesota.
Mm,
Huge.
yeah, I'm gonna take the wind chill on that one, which I think is a good argument for keeping them B because I feel comfortable picking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing I'll
yeah.
say about the Rascals, just real quick, is like we had them S tier in our first video. Just based off of really like nothing. I hadn't even watched any of their games, to be honest.
I think they were
Um,
undefeated at the time.
Yeah, they're like 2-0 or something, and we were like, this is just a storied franchise, like
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see them fall a little bit, but maybe that just means that they're capable of snagging a win over any of those A-tier teams. Maybe we'll see them in the A-tier at the end of the season. Who knows? I'm curious to see how they'll go the rest of the season. I'll be watching them for sure.
Yeah. All right. Next we have the Growlers, who won by 1 point. But I think they looked like the better team. They couldn't really punch in their breaks, but they had a lot more opportunities. So I think they probably showed they're in that top 3 in the West. I guess I was looking at this A tier, and I think the only real movement I would argue is to bump them over the Hustle. Maybe over the Wind Chill.
The
I would
Growlers?
disagree.
Yeah,
I
I
would
would disagree too.
I would disagree. I think the Hustle they lost in a close-ish game
Yeah.
against like the defending champs
Yeah.
and an S tier team. I'm comfortable with where the Hustle are at. What do you guys think?
And I'm high on the windshield too. And I think the Growlers are kind of like sitting on, I mean, they played the Aviators like, and they beat that. I don't know. I think they're at the bottom of the A tier.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I also think the wind chill are at the bottom of the A tier. I don't know who I have higher between wind chill and Growlers. I think the wind chill are good, but I also think that they're a little bit more inconsistent than some of these other teams in the A tier, where I feel good about them, but I just don't feel like I know they're not going to put up a stinker,
For sure.
Would you want the Hustle ahead of the Wind Chill?
I have no idea. I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
It's tough to say.
Yes, 4-2 versus 4-1, but the 2 losses were both to the Flyers.
I think so, yeah.
No,
So-
Also,
yeah.
The Hustle have the best huck percentage in the league at 83.58%, which is like 8.5% higher than even the Alley Cats, and it's 13.5% higher than the next highest team, which are the Growlers. That's crazy.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
feel like if the Hustle were in this Central Division, they would be at the top of it. But you know,
You could probably say that about like a handful of like maybe the Shred would be
Yeah.
the case as well.
yeah, but we have the Shred
Yeah.
over
Maybe the
over
Alley
Minnesota,
Cats
so I don't
also.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Alley
good
Cats
point.
were the Central. They'd be the top of the Central.
Yeah,
If the Alley
Yeah.
Cats were, if only.
it's all rigged. Okay. Did the Shred play? I don't think they did.
No, the Shred did not.
Okay. So they can stay there. The Soul had that 1-1 away doubleheader. They lost to the Union, which was a game I thought they would win, and they were
Yeah.
winning. Then the Union kind of stormed back, and then they took care of business against the Rascals. So I don't know. It's hard to fault them for an away doubleheader. Definitely
I think where
2
they're
wins
at,
would have bumped them up, but
I think where they're at is good. Like, that we thought, I really thought that they could beat the Union, but then the Union kind of cemented themselves as an S tier team by coming back. And then they beat the Rascals, and we have them SB, winning against a B team and losing closely to an S team. Like, I think that cements them in the A tier.
See, I hate that the Soul lost that game to the Union, because I was really hoping that they would prove me right in that Union is an A tier team. That's just won all their games in the Central, but now they beat the Soul. It's a little harder to. They're still undefeated, right?
Yeah.
A little harder to argue that they shouldn't be in the S tier. I guess we're kind of skipping ahead of, this is really about the Soul, but my hot take on that I alluded to in our group chat earlier. I think Union and Soul, I think they're both A tier teams. I think that was an A tier team beating another A tier team, and they're pretenders. That's my hot take. Even though they're undefeated, like, they deserve that. They beat all their games. What else are they supposed to do? And they won by a decent margin. So I think there's arguments for S there, but I'm willing to concede. But yeah, I think both A tier teams. Soul definitely an A tier team. I want to shout out one play that I saw from the dude's name Kyle Hinkie on Soul.
Oh,
He had
that
an
layout was nasty.
insane layout. He had a wicked cross field. He was they were kind of at the end zone. He was way on the sideline, and he just hit a dude in the back corner of the other end zone. I love throws like that. They've got really, really talented players. Definitely we slept on them early on. They're an A tier team for sure. So those are my 2 cents on that game. But
so you're talking about the Union not being S tier, and if you look at the rest of the Central Division, it's the Wind Chill, it's the Rascals, the Alley Cats. We were talking about the Wind Chill being the bottom of the A tier. The way the playoffs work, if you win your division, you are a contender. And as of right now, I think the Union are the clear favorites in their division, the way the other teams are playing.
yeah.
So I think that alone, besides them being undefeated, besides them taking care of business, puts them in the S tier.
Okay.
I
That's
wish
fair.
that I wish I'd watched that game this week, because I don't know if I totally disagree with you, Alu. In my mind, so far, they've looked good, but I don't think that they've looked as dominant as some of the other S tier teams. But I didn't watch the Soul game, so I can't really say, how they played against the Soul, except that they won by 3. I don't really think I would want to move them down, just because they're in the S tier and they're undefeated and they have beaten some solid teams, and they look like a very good team. But now I'm upset I didn't get to watch that game, so I don't have actual backing up to this. But I don't know if I totally disagree.
I can bring a nice valued point from that game. Towards the end of it, I'll just be upfront. I had money on the Soul +2. The spread was +2, and I wanted them to cover. And on the sideline, you can hear them chanting the Union, "Good teams cover, good teams cover." So I guess they knew the spread because they won by 3.
That's
so
funny.
Even though I lost that bet, I found that to be hilarious. So respect to the Union. Good teams do cover.
Speaking of other things that good teams do, I can't remember if it was this week or if it was last week, because I tuned into parts of this week's Union game as well as last week's. They were losing to, I think, either the Soul or maybe it was last week against Madison where they won by 1 point. They were like down and they rattled off like some breaks.
That was this week, yeah.
That was this week. Yeah, like that was also impressive. A lot of frisbee teams are, they just can't make up the breaks that they give up and they just can't come back and make up the mistakes. But I think really good teams are capable of doing that. So maybe I'm talking them into the S tier, but yeah, I was impressed with their ability to do that because that's not something every team has. A lot of the times, I've watched every Aviators game this season, and when they give up those breaks early, it's like, oh man, that might be the game right there, because they'll be playing from behind for the rest of the game versus like a team that has the ability just to at will like just rattle off like 4 breaks in a row. That's impressive. So
yeah. All right. So yeah, I guess I'll just say my piece on the Union. A lot of people were in our mentions saying that the Union were overrated last week. And I don't know how much I disagreed with them. I was definitely surprised to see the Union beat the Soul so kind of like handedly. But I don't know. I mean, they're undefeated, and I looked at their schedule. They've got a couple wind chill games coming up. So I think those will be like where they can kind of establish that they're, they deserve to be in the spot. I mean, for now, they can definitely be like, stay there. They won. But I think people will still have that sort of skeptical look at them until maybe those wind chill games. And even after, honestly, I think people just kind of don't give the Central Division a ton of credit. And maybe that's fair. But because I mean, like the Flyers and the Summit are in that tier, and those teams are just insane. I would pick them every time, probably. So I don't know.
Is the Central in I feel like in other sports leagues it gets slept on, or just teams from the Midwest. Is that true? Like I know in baseball.
Yeah, those Milwaukee Bucks really slept on those Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, in college football, all the Big Ten teams like can't score more than 6 points in a game, but they're all pretty good. So
yeah.
College basketball, they're overhyped and then always lose in the tournament.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like that's what happens in baseball. Like whatever the division, especially in the sorry Ryan, but your American League Central, pretty weak division. And like the division winner always gets sauced by the Yankees in the first round of the playoffs or whatever. So
yeah.
All right. Well,
enough other sports. We don't like other sports.
We only like Sox bobblehead. Yeah, I don't even know other sports. In our discussions, we did hop over this team.
Yeah, I got some stuff to
Breeze.
say. I got some stuff to say.
Yeah, you're wearing the bucket hat, the fly
off your chest,
hat.
Joe.
You go off.
I got some stuff to say. I mean, we've been flirting with the idea of moving, a great team from the A to the S tier for some weeks now. And I know last week, personally, I said, hey, maybe if, this team sauces the Rush, that'd be good enough to get them into the S tier. And I mean, the first half, the Breeze weren't down. It was 9-7 at half. But then they just went on a run after a run. And I think it was 14-8 or 15-9 real quick after that. And then 26-16 is your final score. 19 blocks for the DC Breeze, which I believe our Twitter, Sam pointed out. And, that's just this game. I want to also look at some seasonal stats. Yeah. The Breeze around the league are second. Yeah, it is. yeah. Brian had 4 blocks this week, I believe.
Good for him.
Okay, so the Breeze are second in scoring per game, only down to the Shred. They are second in completions per game and also in completion percentage per game. They are second fewest in turnovers per game. They are second in D-line conversion percentage. They are third in O-line conversion percentage. And also sixth in huck percentage.
All right.
So with that said, I think that they've shown to be a very efficient offensive team and have a good enough offense for the S tier. And we were waiting for them to do something defensively, show us that they do have that defense that they've been known for. And 19 blocks and a 10-point win against, I mean, they were C tier, but now an F tier Toronto. I mean, unfortunate that they couldn't have beaten a better team, but that, you know, the 19 blocks and just everything they've done is enough for me to put my Breeze in the S tier. I rest my case. That's all I have to say.
All right, before we do that, just to play devil's advocate from, you know, super fan over there, they haven't beaten anybody good yet all year. I can read you off who they've played if we want to look at those tiers and kind of compare the tiers to the teams they've beaten. But the only good team that they've beat is the Montreal Royal, and they're currently, you know, bottom of the B tier. We're talking about S tier teams like the Summit, who beat the Shred twice, who's an A tier team. Union, who's beat the Windchill and now the Soul, A tier S tier team. The Flyers, who have beat the Hustle, like beat good teams. These are S tier teams. And also, there's only one loss currently in the S tier, and that's the Flyers. And you're talking about bringing up a team that has 2 losses.
Well,
That's
Ryan,
a hot take.
what are those 2 losses?
Yeah, I will say
The
that
Empire.
you're looking at
Exactly.
the Breeze's wins, but I think if you look at the Breeze's losses, they're just as good a case for the S tier, because yes, they have 2 of them, but they're both to the Empire, and they're both like, they were both games, you know, it was a 3-point game and a 4-point game. And I don't know, like, I think if you just watch the Breeze, you're like, this team would beat anyone in the league, you know, other than the Empire and maybe
I
these
think the
other
problem
S
is
tier teams.
they haven't. Their schedule hasn't played out to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we're
who were they
tuning the teams on
supposed
how
to
good they
beat?
are.
They have their next 2 games are both against Philadelphia, and that's the best team that they can possibly play outside of the Empire. I don't think we should be punishing them for not having higher tier teams in their division.
Yeah, I think Joe brought a really necessary piece of evidence into his argument for S tier, because like if we're only going by schedule, there's only so much we can do, because the team that like they would really need to beat if we're only going by schedule would be the Empire, who we all agree is like above S tier. So I don't think losing to the Empire, who's above S tier, should keep the Breeze out of the S tier per se. And then all the other wins are like, we expect them to win those games, you know? So it's hard to get, you know, they're stuck if we only go by schedule. But I think those just league stats are very telling, and their offense is definitely elite. They go up against any of those other A tier teams. You know, I think a lot of other A tier teams, we would expect them to just kind of trade. Maybe the Shred are, you know, really up there and could possibly beat the Breeze. But I think, yeah, I don't know. I think Joe has a good argument for having them be in the S tier. They're top of the league in a lot of those offensive stats that, you know, at this point in the season, there's enough of a sample size, I think, to put some stock into that. And if we want to have, like, if we're only going by schedule, they can only go down, you know what I mean? So we need something to like allow them some upward mobility.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
All right,
I think
Breeze
just
in the S tier.
looking at this A tier,
Put them up. Put
like
them in
you
the S
said,
tier.
they're beating every team in that A tier.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Welcome
this
to the S tier breeze.
they deserve it. If those
They get
Empire
open.
games are at the end of the year instead of the beginning, like, they would already be there. They would be 6-0, I'm sure, and it would be a weaker schedule, but we would be like, they look that good.
Sam, can you do one thing for me?
Yeah.
If you move them to the left of the union, not for any like skill based reason, but oh wait, that kind of messes it up. Now it doesn't spell bum. Because when all those teams were in the A tier, we had them next to each other, and I didn't notice until someone on Twitter
Yeah.
pointed it out. Someone was just like, I think they might have ratioed us. They're like, it spells bum.
Wait, what if we put the breeze at the end and then just for experiments, switch the Flyers and the Summit? Oh wait, sub. Or bus.
Some.
We can write bus. Bus it. Bus them in.
Summit.
All right. Windshield, get yourselves into S tier so we can spell bum again. That's what I'm rooting for.
We get the rascals up there and spell rub.
Okay, I'd be okay with that too.
I know what Joe really wants. He wants some alley cats in the S tier.
Yeah, we could spell Bua.
Well, it would really be alley cat
Yeah.
just pretty electric in my opinion as well.
Yeah, we should advocate for more just letter logos so that we can spell more fun things next year.
Cool things. Yeah.
Any more tier talk that we need to get done? We have a few teams we haven't really touched on.
The Flyers did play this week. They won, but it was a fun game.
Yeah, I thought they'd have more trouble, and then they didn't at all. So
yeah, I thought maybe the Hustle would win at home. I should have thought a little harder. Like I was rooting for the Hustle, but I think in my gut, I really felt like the Flyers were just gonna win, and they did. They got a block that they needed, a couple other like mistakes, and then they just score in a really boring way that's extremely effective, and it's not fun to watch, especially because you're rooting against them. And they're like, no, we just win games. It's sorry, we're Carolina. So I don't know, who was their one loss? I don't even know.
It was
Soul.
It was Soul on the road, and
they're
missing some dudes. Yeah, they're S tier. I don't know. There's nothing really much else to say. There's not much to talk about. They're just really good, and it's infuriating. And they're just, you got to respect their S tier team.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we have the Summit. Ryan,
yeah, S tier, top of the S tier, soon to be in the Empire tier. I think the S tier are underrated just because right now we have them in the top of the S tier, but they look good. They have experience for being a brand new team. They're putting on clinics and they're just getting started. This Summit team is something special to watch. They beat the Cascades by 8. My guy Cody Spicer that I hyped up weeks ago, he has been showing out on D line. It's just been fun to watch, fun to be a fan, happy to be a fan. Can't wait for Sam for you to get out here in 2 weeks and win this in person. Just dunk on Rookie of the Year front runner ever Shapiro. He's gonna be playing a lot of points because he's on O-line.
I have a fun thought experiment, perhaps. So I think the Summit they're at the top of the S tier. They maybe it's a similar Breeze situation where it's what would get them above? What would get them to that Empire tier? So let's go around. Let's think if they played the Empire today, who comes out on top in that game? Because the Empire are also in that same East Division that we were dogging just a few minutes ago. Do the Summit come out on top? I think the Summit are in a tougher division. So maybe their wins carry a little more weight. I don't know. Because who's the Empire's beaten Breeze? I think that's their biggest win. But then everything else is same teams the Breeze have beaten, right? Like, have they crossed over?
Not that I
So
knew
I
of.
think as of right now, I think the Empire wins. I think the Empire they've gotten so many years under themselves of being kind of at that top with those players that they have that connection that really allows them to dominate teams. And I think the Summit has the talent, but because they've only played 7 games total in all of their ADL career, like together, like they still need like I don't see them losing like a game like here on out, and maybe going to that final week we bump them up to the Empire tier as like possibly the only 2 teams that are still undefeated going into the playoffs. And I think then when you get to the playoffs, the Summit have a real chance of beating the Empire.
I'll say my thoughts personally. I don't think the Summit would beat the Empire more than like, I don't know, a third of the time, maybe a quarter of the time.
Okay.
I just think like the Summit have these insane athletes, but the Empire have the athletes to match anyone. And then I would definitely say the Empire have the better top to bottom, the better throwers, maybe not like, the best thrower. But I think like 1 through 7, they have better throwers and better decision makers. And like, yeah, I don't know. I want to say Daniel Cohen's been, this is a couple of weeks ago, but he was talking about like all the turnovers from the Summit and the Shred. And he's mostly stopped talking about that because the Summit are so good, but you just can't turn the disc over that much against the Empire. And I don't know if the Summit can play like a cautious sort of possession game that they would need to play. So I think the Empire are still above, but I'm definitely looking forward to what I assume will be the championship game between the two.
Potentially, don't you say that, and then I'm looking at that little Carolina logo, and I'm like, man, you just can't.
I think
I
when
thought you
we
would say you're looking at the Alley Cat logo.
That too.
when Alu first brought up this hypothetical, I was like, yeah, Empire. Like Empire had that game. No real doubt in my mind. But then I thought about it a little bit more. And I still think it's the Empire, but I don't know how strongly I feel that way. Like, in a 7-game series, I take the Empire pretty confidently. In one game, let's say it's in Colorado, they look good. They're a really good team. I do think they would have to limit turnovers because I don't think you can give the Empire, 15, 13 break chances and expect to win a game. But I do think that the Summit are a smart and good team. And if they could limit turnovers, they have an offense that could keep up with the Empire.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still think it's Empire, but I think it'd be a really fun game.
Yeah, I'm excited for the playoffs to come around. I think when we preview these games, we'll be able to go even more in depth. Like right now, I'm curious. I'm like, okay, who on the Summit or who on the like Empire D line is matching up with, which players on the Summit O line, things like that. And I think really getting into that would be more revealing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the playoff kind of talk because I think we'll be able to get into some of that. But yeah, I mean, I guess you got to go with Empire still. But it's an interesting thought. I think if anyone can give him a good game, it's definitely the Summit. I think we all agree on that. But
Another thought experiment. Are we too biased on how schedules work? Like if an F tier team beat a B tier team this week, what would that mean for those 2 teams?
I mean, it depends on the game. It depends on what they look. But yeah, like Sam just said, I think on paper, they both go to C. I don't know.
Because I'm looking at the Aviators and the Cascades, and I'm like, Cascades beat the Aviators,
Well, yeah,
and they're
I'll
2
say
divisions apart.
the Cascades are, when they're at home and they have all their players, they're an A or B team, and that's what they were in that game against the Aviators. But they never bring those guys on the road, and like they just look like shit when they don't have them. So like week to week, they definitely look like they're up there. But I think if you look at their whole kind of body of work, if they're not going to bring all those guys all the time, then we can't give them credit for that, really.
Yeah, I'm also like, I'm a proponent of cutting a team a little bit of slack on the second game of the road doubleheader. And the Aviators were coming off of a game against Nitro, and it's always tough to show out in those types of games. And unfortunately for our Breeze argument, the Rush were playing their second road game. And I think they very much looked like they were playing their second game of the weekend, and they're from Canada on the road, but yeah, and I digress. But yeah, the Cascades have been a bit of an enigma this season, because I've wanted to really like them and I've wanted to put them higher, and they have amazing players, and Seattle Ultimate has its reputation, but it's hard to put them higher than F right now, I guess, for being cutthroat.
We do have some big tier implication games this week.
Yeah,
we got Spiders, Cascades. One team is going to have to come out of the F tier, I think.
probably the Cascades.
But also Growlers. I mean, I think if the Spiders win,
Growlers have a tough.
Yeah,
weekend
Growlers
ahead.
have a horrible doubleheader. Yeah,
this will show. That'll be interesting.
They have Shred and then
Summit.
Summit.
I don't think the Growlers have had a road doubleheader yet, have they?
I don't think
No, they
so.
haven't played any games.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
I think
They've only
they're
played
going
6
0-2.
games.
Huge test for the Growlers.
Okay, so we this is a big test for the Growlers. Do we move them down if they go winless next week?
We'll have to see. I think there's an argument not to, just given who they have to play.
But the Summit are their fellow A-tier team, or not the Summit, the Shred.
Yeah, but I think we agree there's some sort of line between them already.
Maybe, but they're kind of.
If we just said that they're the end of the A tier, they're wobbling. If they go 0 for 2, it just obviously it's the Shred and the Summit, 2 good teams. But if they go 0 for 2 on the weekend, and if they don't look good, I think that that's strong.
Yeah.
So it just shows that they're not good enough to be in the A tier.
If they don't look good, yeah. But if say the Shred game is like a 1 or 2 point game, I think that's all they would need to do to maybe stay. Because I think the Summit, they're going to lose by a lot. It's their second game and it's the Summit.
Hot take. I think the Growlers beat the Shred on that first game. We'll see what happens there.
Okay.
I would love that.
Like
that would be
that.
really interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll spice up the ADL if that happens.
There's some big
we can
powerhouse games in the Central too next week.
Oh, yeah. Flyers, Cannons. Give me the Cannons plus 12.5.
Give me the Rush over the Glory.
Oh, I like it.
In Toronto,
Sorry,
I'm
LA
feeling
Cats, you are not winning that game.
Yeah, LA Cats Union, that's the test. And then Winchell Rascals. But yeah, anyway. So I think we're done.
Yeah, coming up on time.
Knocking on the door of
I
8
like this tier. I think it's looking good.
Yeah.
We really beefed up that F tier. So we're gonna get some hate comments, but again, if you've listened this far and you're on one of those F tier teams, come on the pod and convince us why you're not on the F tier.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I'll move you out of the F tier if you come on the pod. That
yeah, you can go Empire.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
we'll add a came on the pod tier right above F.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts. Anyone?
I'm open.
I'm open.
I'm open.
All right. Well, this
So
has been
open.
I'm Open. Thanks for listening or watching. And I hope you agree with us. But
Go
you probably
Breeze.
won't. Go Breeze. Go Aviators, go Summit, and
Go Summit.
go Aviators again.
Ever Shapiro Rookie of the Year.